Captain Min-Jun Park stood at the observation window of Harmony's Edge Station and watched the stars. He had been the human liaison officer here for 3 years. In that time, he had helped solve disputes, arranged cultural exchanges, and built friendships with dozens of alien species. The Galactic Union was a place of peace. It had been peaceful for over 500 years. But today, peace was ending. Behind him, the council chamber buzzed with worried voices. The Kalari spoke in their slow, thoughtful way. The Thessians gestured with their 4 arms, creating patterns in the air. The Zorin clicked and hummed, calculating probabilities. All of them were afraid. The Vrex Dominion was coming. Min-Jun had studied the Vrex during his training. They were a warrior species who had rejected every attempt at diplomacy. They did not trade. They did not negotiate. They only conquered. For decades, they had stayed in their own territory. The Union had hoped they would remain isolated forever. That hope had died 2 weeks ago. Lieutenant Hyejin Kim approached Min-Jun with a data pad. She was his assistant and had worked with him since he arrived at the station. Her face showed the same worry he felt. "The Vrex have issued another ultimatum," she said quietly. "The Alari have 48 hours to surrender their homeworld. If they refuse, the Vrex will invade." Min-Jun took the pad and read the message. The words were blunt and cold. There was no room for discussion. The Vrex wanted the Alari world because it had resources they needed. They did not care that 8 billion Alari lived there. They did not care about anything except taking what they wanted. "What is the council saying?" Min-Jun asked. Hyejin shook her head. "They do not know what to do. They have never faced anything like this before." Min-Jun understood the problem. The Galactic Union had been built on the idea that all conflicts could be resolved through talking. Every species in the Union had evolved past warfare. They had defense platforms around their worlds. They had patrol ships to stop pirates. But they had no warships. They had no armies. They had no experience with real war. The Vrex had all of those things. He turned back to the window and thought about Earth. Humanity had joined the Union only 20 years ago. The other species had welcomed humans because they were good at diplomacy. Humans could talk to anyone. They could find common ground between species that seemed completely different. They could build bridges. But humans were good at diplomacy for a reason. They had learned it the hard way. "I need to contact Earth Command," Min-Jun said. "Use the secure channel." Hyejin nodded and set up the transmission. It took several minutes to establish the connection. When the screen activated, General Park Sung-ho appeared. He was Min-Jun's uncle and one of the senior commanders in Earth's Defense Force. "Min-Jun," the general said, "we have been monitoring the situation. The Vrex are moving faster than we expected." "The Union cannot stop them," Min-Jun said. "Their defense platforms are not designed for this kind of attack. The Vrex fleet will sweep through them in hours, maybe less." "We know," General Park said. His face was serious. "We have been preparing for this possibility." Min-Jun felt a chill. "What have you been preparing?" "Something the Union has never seen before," his uncle replied. "Something we hoped we would never need to build again. But the intelligence reports about the Vrex were clear. Peace only works when everyone chooses peace. The Vrex do not make that choice." "What are you sending?" Min-Jun asked. General Park was quiet for a moment. "We are sending the answer humanity learned from our own history. We are sending protection. Expect arrival in 40 hours. The transmission ended. Hyejin looked at Min-Jun with questions in her eyes. "What does he mean? What is Earth sending?" "I do not know," Min-Jun admitted. "But my uncle does not speak lightly. If he says they are sending protection, then we need to trust them." Back in the council chamber, the debate continued. Wisdom Keeper Thaliesh of the Kalari was speaking. He was over 300 years old and had guided the Union through countless challenges. But even he seemed lost now. We must consider all options, Thalyesh said in his deep, slow voice. Perhaps we can negotiate with the Vrex. Perhaps there is something they want more than the Alari world. Ambassador Seo Yun Lee, the senior human diplomat, stood up. She was a small woman with gray hair, but when she spoke, everyone listened. With respect, Wisdom Keeper, the Vrex do not negotiate, she said. We have tried 17 times to open communication with them. They have ignored us every time. They see negotiation as weakness. Then what do you suggest? Asked a Thessian counselor. Should we fight? We do not have the weapons or the knowledge. Our species have not fought wars in centuries. Seo Yun looked around the chamber. I suggest we wait 40 hours. Earth is sending something that might help. What could Earth possibly send? The Thessian demanded. No offense to humanity, but your military is small. You have a few patrol ships and some defense satellites. The Vrex have hundreds of warships. Please, Seo Yun said calmly. Trust us for 40 hours. If what Earth is sending does not help, then we will find another way. The council argued for another hour, but finally agreed to wait. They had no better options. Min Jun returned to his quarters and tried to sleep, but could not. He kept thinking about his uncle's words. What had humanity built? Earth had been peaceful since joining the Union. They had dismantled most of their military weapons. They had focused on exploration and diplomacy. Or had they? At midnight station time, his communication console beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. Just one word. Inbound. Min Jun stared at the screen. Something was coming. Something that humanity had kept secret. Something that would change everything. He thought about human history, the wars, the violence, the millions who had died learning the hard lessons about conflict. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself before finally choosing peace, but they had never forgotten those lessons. Maybe that was what the Union needed now. Not weapons, not violence, but the wisdom that came from understanding both. The Vrex had 36 hours until their deadline. Whatever Earth was sending would arrive just in time. Min Jun looked out at the stars again and whispered a prayer that his uncle knew what he was doing. The emergency council session was scheduled for 8 in the morning. Ambassador Seo Yun Lee arrived early and found the chamber already half full. The alien representatives looked tired. None of them had slept well. The Vrex deadline was now only 12 hours away. Seo Yun took her seat and reviewed her notes. She had received another message from Earth Command at dawn. Just 3 words this time. Hold the chamber. She did not know what that meant, but she trusted her government. Humanity had not survived its violent past by making careless decisions. Wisdom Keeper Thalesh called the session to order. His movements were slower than usual. The weight of responsibility was visible on his face. We must make a decision today, Thalesh announced. The Vrex fleet has entered the outer edge of Alari space. They will reach the homeworld in 10 hours. We have 3 options. First, we can ask the Alari to surrender. Second, we can attempt a defense with our available ships. Third, we can evacuate as many Alari as possible before the invasion. All of those options are surrender, said a Zorin counselor. We would be abandoning the Alari to slavery or death. Then what do you propose? Thalesh asked. Before anyone could answer, Seo Yun stood up. Honorable counselors, I request that we delay this decision for 1 more hour. Something important is about to happen. We do not have time for delays, a Thessian protested. Every minute we waste brings the Vrex closer. 1 hour, Seo Yun repeated firmly. I promise it will not be wasted. Thalesh studied her face. He had worked with humanity for many years. He knew they did not make empty promises. Very well, he said. We will wait 1 hour. 20 minutes later, the station's proximity alarms began to sound. Captain Min Jun Park was in the command center when the alert came through. He had been monitoring long-range sensors, watching for any sign of what Earth had sent. The sensor officer, a Kalari named Resh, looked confused. Something just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the system's edge, Resh reported. But the readings do not make sense. Show me, Minjun said. The main display activated. Numbers scrolled across the screen. Resh was right. The readings seemed impossible. The object is massive, Resh said slowly. It is 4 times larger than the biggest Vrex dreadnought. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database. Minjun felt his heart beat faster. Can you get a visual? Working on it, Resh said. His fingers moved across the controls. The object is approaching at standard cruising speed. Not aggressive, but not hiding either. Visual coming through now. The screen changed. Everyone in the command center stopped what they were doing and stared. It was a ship, but calling it a ship seemed inadequate. It was a floating fortress. The hull was dark gray and covered with armor plating. Weapons batteries lined its sides. Shield generators glowed with blue light. The design was angular and aggressive, built for one purpose: war. What is that? Resh whispered. Minjun could barely speak. That is a human battleship. The word spread through the station in minutes. Soon, every screen in Harmony's edge showed the approaching vessel. The council chamber's main display activated automatically, showing the ship growing larger as it came closer. The councilors fell completely silent. Seo Yun stood and walked to the center of the chamber. She had seen the designs for the ship, but seeing it in reality was different. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Honorable councilors, she said, allow me to introduce the UHSS Indomitable, humanity's answer to the Vrex threat. How long have you been building this? Thalesh asked quietly. Construction began 5 years ago, Seo Yun admitted. When our intelligence services learned about the Vrex and their expansion plans, we hoped we would never need to deploy it. But hope is not a strategy. A Thessian counselor stood up, his 4 arms shaking. You built a warship in secret, while preaching peace to us? We built a defender, Seo Yun corrected. There is a difference. Look closely at the hull. The display zoomed in. The ship's armor plating showed marks and scars, but they were not from battle. They were old, ancient even. Those marks are from Earth's own wars, Seo Yun explained. We took steel from battleships that fought in our world wars, ships that killed thousands. We melted that steel down and built the Indomitable with it. Every crew member walks past those scars every day. They are a reminder. A reminder of what? Asked a Kalari. That war is not glorious, Seo Yun said softly. That violence has a terrible cost. That we must never forget what we learned from our mistakes. Captain Min Jun Park entered the chamber. He had been summoned to give the technical briefing. He stood next to Seo Yun and activated his data pad. The Indomitable is armed with weapons designed from human military history, he began. But every system has one primary function: protection. The shields can cover an area the size of a small moon. The weapons can disable enemy ships without destroying them. The armor can absorb tremendous damage. Why disable instead of destroy? Asked the Zoran counselor. Because every ship has a crew, Minjun said simply. Every crew has families. Humanity learned that lesson in blood. We do not kill unless there is absolutely no other choice. A new transmission interrupted the briefing. The Vrex had intercepted the visual feeds of the Indomitable. Their response was broadcast on all channels. Attention, human vessel. The Vrex commander's voice was harsh and filled with contempt. You will retreat immediately or be destroyed. We will make an example of your ship. The Union will learn that resistance is futile. Seo Yun looked at the display showing the Indomitable. It continued its steady approach, not slowing down or speeding up, just moving forward with calm purpose. They are going to attack the Indomitable, Thalesh said. 3 Vrex cruisers are breaking from their main fleet. They are moving to intercept. Yes, Seo Yun said. They are. Should we warn the Indomitable? a Thessian asked. Minjun shook his head. They already know. And they are ready. The council chamber remained silent as they watched the Virex cruisers accelerate toward the human battleship. The ships were large and heavily armed. They had destroyed Union defense platforms with ease. They were confident. But they had never faced humanity before. The Indomitable did not change course. It did not run. It simply continued forward, placing itself directly between the station and the approaching Vrex vessels. "What are they doing?" Thalesh asked. "Their job," Seo Yun answered. "They are protecting us." Admiral Ji-Woo Choi sat in the command chair of the UHSS Indomitable and watched the three Vrex cruisers approach. She had been preparing for this moment for 5 years. Every simulation, every drill, every late night reviewing tactical reports, all of it had led to this. Her crew worked quietly around her. They were the best humanity had to offer. They came from every nation on Earth: Korean, Nigerian, Brazilian, Russian, American, Chinese, Japanese, German. Nations that had once fought each other, nations that had killed millions of each other's people. Now they worked together with perfect coordination. "Range to Vrex vessels?" Ji-Woo asked. 80,000 kilometers and closing, reported Lieutenant Commander James Chen from the tactical station. "They are accelerating, weapon systems charging." "Commander Okonkwo, status of our shields?" "Shields at maximum," replied the chief engineer. Her voice was calm. "All power systems operating normally." Ji-Woo looked at the main view screen. The Vrex ships were visible now, growing larger. They were impressive vessels, sleek and dangerous. But she had studied their tactics. The Vrex believed in overwhelming force. They expected enemies to run or die. She intended to teach them a third option. "Open a channel to the Vrex ships," Ji-Woo ordered. "Channel open, Admiral," said the communications officer. Ji-Woo stood up. She wanted them to see her face. "This is Admiral Ji-Woo Choi of the United Humanity Starship Indomitable. You are approaching a peaceful station. I am asking you to change course and withdraw." There was a pause. Then the Vrex commander appeared on screen. He was tall and covered in thick scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. "Humans," he said with disgust. "You are the Union's pet diplomats. You talk and smile and pretend you matter. We will crush your ship and show the Union what happens to those who stand against us." "I am giving you one chance to avoid violence," Ji-Woo said calmly. "Choose wisely." The Vrex commander laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "We choose to add your wreckage to our collection." The transmission ended. The Vrex ships opened fire. In the council chamber at Harmony's edge, everyone watched the display in horror. Bright energy beams lanced out from the Vrex cruisers. Missiles streaked through space. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small fleet. The Indomitable's shields flared blue as the weapons impacted. The light was so bright, it hurt to look at. The barrage continued for 10 seconds, 20, 30. When it finally stopped, smoke and energy discharge clouded the view. "Did they survive?" Someone whispered. The smoke cleared. The Indomitable was still there. Its shields glowed but held strong. Not a single scratch marked its hull. Captain Minjun Park felt pride swell in his chest. The other species in the chamber were completely silent, staring at the screen in disbelief. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Choi remained seated. The ship had barely trembled from the assault. "Shield status?" she asked. "Shields at 97%, Okonkwo reported. "That attack was insignificant." "The Vrex are charging weapons again," Chen said. "They seem confused." Ji-Woo could imagine their confusion. The Vrex had probably never encountered shields this strong. They were learning that humanity had spent centuries perfecting defensive technology. When you have fought as many wars as humans have, you learn to protect your people. "Broadcast on all channels," Ji-Woo ordered. I want everyone to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "All channels open, Admiral." Jiwoo stood again. "This is Admiral Choi to all vessels in this system. I do not want to harm the Virex crews. They are following orders. They have families. I will give them one more chance to withdraw. But if they continue their attack, I will defend this station. I will disable their ships, not destroy them. Even enemies deserve the chance to go home." She nodded to the communications officer to close the channel. Then she looked at Chen. "Target their engines, shield generators, and weapon systems," she said. "Precision shots only. No casualties if possible." "Understood, Admiral," Chen replied. His fingers danced across his console. Firing solutions locked. The Vrex ships attacked again. More energy beams, more missiles. The Indomitable's shields absorbed everything. "Return fire," Jiwoo said quietly. The Indomitable's weapons fired. In the council chamber, the observers gasped. The human ship's weapons were nothing like Vrex technology. They did not spray fire everywhere. Each shot was perfectly aimed, surgical. The beams moved so fast they were almost invisible. The first Vrex cruiser's engines exploded in controlled bursts, not catastrophic explosions that would kill the crew, just enough to disable the ship. It began to drift. The second cruiser tried to evade, but the Indomitable's targeting was too precise. Its shield generators sparked and failed. Then its weapons went dark. The third cruiser attempted to retreat, but it was too late. The Indomitable's weapons found their marks. Engines disabled, shields down, weapons offline. From first shot to last took 17 seconds. 3 Virex heavy cruisers floated helplessly in space. Their life support was intact, their crews were alive, but they could not fight. They could not run. They were completely at the Indomitable's mercy. "Scan for casualties," Jiwoo ordered. Chen worked his console. "Scanning all 3 vessels. I am detecting life signs on all ships. No major casualties reported. Some minor injuries from system failures, but nothing critical." Jiwoo nodded slowly. "Good. Open a channel to the Vrex ships." The Vrex commander appeared on screen again. His expression had changed. The contempt was gone. Now there was only shock. "You could have destroyed us," he said slowly. "Why did you not?" "Because I am not here to kill," Jiwoo replied. "I am here to protect. Your crews have families. They deserve to return home. I do not want to take that from them. But I will not let you hurt innocent people either." "You fought like you negotiate," the Vrex commander said. There was something new in his voice. Not respect, not yet. But perhaps the beginning of understanding. "You left us a way out." "I always leave a way out," Jiwoo said. "That is what humanity learned from our mistakes. Violence should always be the last choice, and even in violence you can show mercy." She closed the channel and sat back in her command chair. "Status?" she asked. "The Vrex main fleet has stopped advancing," Chen reported. "They are holding position at the edge of Alari space. I think we surprised them." "Good," Jiwoo said. "Set course for Harmony's edge. Standard speed. Let everyone see us coming." In the council chamber, Wisdom Keeper Thalesh stood slowly. He was 300 years old. He had seen the Union through countless challenges. But he had never seen anything like this. "Humans built the most powerful warship in known space," he said quietly. "But they fight like they negotiate. They disable instead of destroy. They offer mercy to enemies." Ambassador Seo Yun Lee nodded. "We learned from our history. Power without wisdom is dangerous. Strength without compassion is cruelty. Humanity has seen what happens when you have weapons but no morals." "The Vrex main fleet is not retreating," a Thessian counselor pointed out. "They still threaten the Alari homeworld." "Yes," Seo Yun said, "but now they know what stands between them and their target." One human ship stopped 3 of their cruisers in 17 seconds. What will the Indomitable do when it reaches the Alari system? The question hung in the air. Everyone knew the answer. The Indomitable would do what it was built to do. It would protect. Wisdom Keeper Thalesh requested a private meeting with Ambassador Seo Yun Lee 3 hours after the Indomitable's display of power. She met him in one of the station's meditation chambers. The room was quiet and filled with soft light. Thalesh looked old. His species lived for centuries, but the stress of recent days had aged him visibly. He stood by the window and watched the Indomitable in the distance. The human battleship was docked near the station now, close enough to see its details. "I have lived for 312 years, Thalesh said slowly. "I have guided the Union through economic crises, natural disasters, and diplomatic disputes, but I have never faced anything like this. The Vrex showed me something uncomfortable." "What did they show you?" Seo Yun asked gently. "That peace only works when everyone chooses peace," Thalesh replied. "We built the Union on philosophy and negotiation. We believed that was enough. We were naive." "You were hopeful," Seo Yun said. "That is not the same as naive." Thalesh turned to face her. "Your ship defeated 3 Vrex cruisers in 17 seconds. Humanity has been part of the Union for only 20 years, yet you possess the most powerful military vessel in known space. This troubles me." "Why does it trouble you?" Seo Yun asked. "Because power corrupts," Thalesh said. "History shows this. Not human history alone, but the history of every species. Those with the greatest weapons eventually use them to take what they want. What prevents humanity from becoming the next Vrex Dominion?" Seo Yun was quiet for a moment. "That is a fair question. Would you like to see the answer?" "Can you show me an answer?" Thalesh asked. "Yes," Seo Yun said, "but you need to come with me to the Indomitable." 20 minutes later, Thalesh and Seo Yun materialized in the Indomitable's transporter room. Admiral Jiwoo Choi was waiting for them. She was shorter than Thalesh expected. Most humans were small compared to his species, but there was strength in her bearing. "Wisdom Keeper Thalesh," Jiwoo said with a slight bow. "Welcome to the Indomitable. Ambassador Lee told me you have questions." "I do," Thalesh admitted. "I need to understand what prevents humanity from misusing the power you have built." "Then let me show you," Jiwoo said. "Please follow me." She led them through the ship's corridors. The Indomitable was massive inside. Crew members passed them, all nodding respectfully to their admiral. Thalesh noticed something interesting. The crew was incredibly diverse, different skin colors, different languages being spoken, different cultural symbols on their uniforms. "Your crew comes from many nations," Thalesh observed. "From every nation on Earth," Jiwoo confirmed. "We require it. No single nation can crew a ship like this. We need everyone working together." They entered a large chamber. Thalesh stopped and stared. The walls were covered with names. Thousands of names, tens of thousands, maybe more. The names were engraved in metal panels that stretched from floor to ceiling. "What is this place?" Thalesh asked. "These are the memorial walls," Jiwoo said softly. "Every name here is a human who died in Earth's wars. Soldiers, civilians, children. We have panels for every major conflict in our history." She walked to one wall and touched a name gently. "This wall holds names from World War II. Over 70 million people died in that war. This section is for the Holocaust. 6 million murdered. Here are the names from the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki." Thalesh felt something cold in his chest. So many deaths. "And these are just some of them," Seo Yun added quietly. "We have walls for the Mongol conquests, the 30 Years' War, the Taiping Rebellion, the Rwandan genocide. Every crew member on this ship passes these walls every day." "Why?" Thalesh asked. "Why surround yourselves with such pain?" "So we never forget," Jiwoo said. "These are not celebrations of victory. They are reminders of the cost of violence. Every human child learns this history. We study the wars. We learn what led to them. We understand the mistakes our ancestors made. She gestured around the chamber. We built the most powerful warship in known space not because we love war, but because we hate it. We understand it. We know what happens when violence is not checked by wisdom and compassion. A young crew member entered the chamber carrying flowers. He approached one of the walls and placed the flowers at its base. Then he stood there for a moment in silence. "We tend these walls," Ji-woo explained. Crew members volunteer to maintain them, to bring flowers, to read the names, to remember. Thalesh walked closer to the walls. He read some of the names. Each one had been a living being. Each one had a story. Each one had died because of choices made by others. "You remember so you do not repeat," he said slowly. "Exactly," Ji-woo replied. "The Vreks have never lost a war. They do not understand the cost of violence because they have never paid it. But humanity has paid that cost over and over. We know what war does. We know what it takes from people." An alarm sounded. A crew member's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Choi to the bridge. The Vreks' main fleet is moving toward the Alari homeworld. Estimated arrival in 6 hours. Ji-woo's expression did not change. "I need to go. You are welcome to accompany me to the bridge." They followed her through the corridors. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, but Thalesh noticed something. They were not excited or eager. They looked serious, determined, but not happy. On the bridge, the main view screen showed the Vreks fleet. Dozens of ships advancing in formation. They were heading straight for the Alari system. "Options?" Ji-woo asked her tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Chen worked his console. "We can intercept them in 4 hours if we leave immediately. But Admiral, that is the entire Vreks invasion fleet. Over 40 warships, including their flagship dreadnought. Even the Indomitable cannot fight that many ships at once." "I am not going to fight them," Ji-woo said calmly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. "Admiral?" Chen asked carefully. Ji-woo looked at the view screen. "Set course for the Alari homeworld. Maximum speed. I want to arrive before the Vreks fleet." "What is your plan?" Thalesh asked. Ji-woo turned to face him. "You asked what prevents humanity from misusing our power. The answer is purpose. We built the Indomitable for one reason: to protect others, not to conquer, not to dominate, to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. You are going to put the Indomitable between the Vreks fleet and the Alari homeworld," Thalesh realized. "Yes," Ji-woo said. "We will be a shield, not a sword." "They will try to destroy you," Seo-yun said quietly. 40 ships against 1. "I know," Ji-woo replied, "but we will not be alone." She activated a communication channel. "This is Admiral Choi to all Union vessels. The Vreks fleet is advancing on the Alari homeworld. The Indomitable is moving to intercept. We will position ourselves to defend the Alari people. Any ship willing to stand with us is welcome." She closed the channel and looked at Thalesh. "Now you have a choice, Wisdom Keeper. Will the Union stand with humanity? Or will you let the Alari face the Vreks alone?" Thalesh looked at the memorial walls displayed on a secondary screen. All those names, all those deaths, all those lessons learned in blood and pain. Humanity had built the most powerful weapon in known space, but they surrounded themselves with reminders of why they should never want to use it. He made his choice. "Send a message to all Union members," Thalesh said. "Tell them the Kalari are going to the Alari system. Tell them we will stand with humanity. Tell them it is time we learned what it means to protect what we believe in." Captain Min-jun Park stood in the command center of Harmony's Edge and watched the tactical display with growing amazement. Ships were arriving from across the Union, not warships. The Union had no warships, but every other kind of vessel imaginable. The Kalari were coming in their massive science vessels, ships built to study stars and explore nebulas. The Thessians brought their cultural exchange ships, designed to carry art and music between worlds. The Zorin arrived in their computational vessels, floating data centers that helped coordinate Union communications. "How many ships have responded?" asked Lieutenant Hee-Jin Kim. "Over 300, Min-jun replied, "from 40 different species. None of them are military vessels." "What are they going to do?" Hye-jin asked. Min-jun understood her concern. These were peaceful ships crewed by scientists, artists, and scholars. They had no weapons, no armor, no combat training. Against the Vrex fleet, they would be helpless. But they were coming anyway. The Indomitable reached the Alari homeworld first. Admiral Jiwoo Choi positioned the ship directly in the planet's orbital path. The Vrex fleet would have to go through the Indomitable to reach the planet below. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Chen monitored the sensors. "The Vrex fleet is 2 hours away. They are not slowing down." "Expected," Jiwoo said calmly. "They think we will move when we see their full force." "Will we?" asked a young ensign. "No," Jiwoo said simply. The Alari had been watching the situation with desperate hope. Their defense platforms were prepared, but everyone knew they could not stop the Vrex. When the Indomitable arrived, the Alari president sent a personal message. "Thank you," she said. Her voice broke with emotion. "Thank you for standing with us." Jiwoo sent a brief reply. "We do not abandon those who cannot defend themselves." An hour later, the Union ships began to arrive. The first was a Kalari science vessel, the Eternal Question. It was enormous and beautiful, covered with sensor arrays and observation equipment. It positioned itself next to the Indomitable. Then came a Thessian cultural ship, the Harmony of Colors. Its hull was painted with murals from 1,000 worlds. It took position on the other side of the Indomitable. More ships arrived. They spread out, forming a wall between the planet and the approaching Vrex fleet. Scientists who studied black holes, artists who painted nebulas, mathematicians who calculated the movement of galaxies. None of them were warriors, but all of them chose to stand. On the bridge of the Indomitable, the crew watched in silence as the makeshift fleet assembled. Over 300 ships. Some were tiny research vessels, barely larger than shuttles. Others were massive colony transports. They were all different sizes, shapes, and designs, but they had one thing in common. They refused to let evil pass unopposed. "This is unexpected," Chen said quietly. "Humanity taught them something," Jiwoo replied. "Not how to fight, but how to stand firm." The Vrex fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 40 warships in perfect formation. Their commander sent a message immediately. "Attention, human vessel and Union ships. You are blocking our path. Move aside or be destroyed. You cannot stop us." Admiral Choi stood and faced the view screen. "This is Admiral Jiwoo Choi. We will not move. If you want to harm the Alari people, you will have to go through all of us." "You are fools," the Vrex commander replied. "Most of your ships have no weapons. We will destroy them in minutes." "Then you will be destroying innocent people," Jiwoo said. "Scientists, teachers, artists, people who came here to protect others, not to fight. Are you prepared to slaughter unarmed civilians?" There was a long pause. On Harmony's edge, Captain Park watched the tactical display. The Vrex fleet had stopped advancing. They were holding position, not attacking, but not retreating either. "What are they doing?" Hye-jin asked. "They are thinking," Min-jun said. "Maybe for the first time." On the Vrex flagship, Commander Krath stared at his tactical display. His officers waited for orders. The situation was simple. The Union ships were no threat. His fleet could destroy them easily. The human battleship was more dangerous, but even it could not fight 40 ships at once. But something troubled him. The 3 cruisers he had sent to test the human ship had returned. Their crews had told him what happened. The humans could have killed them, could have destroyed all 3 ships. Instead, They disabled them, left them alive. Now the humans were here with hundreds of other ships, unarmed ships, ships that came knowing they might die. They came not to fight, but to stand between his fleet and innocent people. "Commander," his tactical officer said, "we are ready to engage, waiting for your order." Krath thought about his orders. Take the Alari world. The Dominion needed its resources. Resistance was irrelevant. Victory was certain. But at what cost? To win, he would need to destroy hundreds of ships, kill thousands of beings who had done nothing except stand in his way. Scientists who studied the stars, teachers who educated children, artists who created beauty. None of them were soldiers. None of them deserved death. And even if he won, even if he destroyed every ship in his path, the entire galaxy would see what he had done. The Vrex would be known as the species that slaughtered innocents who could not fight back. He thought about the human ship, the Indomitable. It had the power to destroy, but chose mercy. It could have killed his cruiser crews, but let them live. It was standing here now as a shield, not a sword. The humans understood something the Vrex had never considered. True strength was not the ability to kill. It was the willingness to protect, to sacrifice yourself for someone else, to stand firm even when afraid. Krath made his decision. "All ships," he said slowly, "reverse course. We are leaving this system." "Commander," his tactical officer looked confused, "we can win this fight." "Winning is not the same as victory," Krath said. "If we destroy these ships, we prove that we are monsters. The entire Union will see us as murderers of the innocent. We will never be able to negotiate with anyone. We will be alone in the galaxy forever." He looked at his crew. The humans taught the Union to stand firm. They showed them that some things are worth protecting. We can kill them, yes, but we cannot defeat what they represent. The Vrex fleet turned and began to withdraw. On the Indomitable, the bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the enemy ships departed. "They are leaving," Chen said. "All vessels withdrawing at standard speed." Admiral Jiwoo Choi sat back in her command chair. She had been prepared to fight, prepared to sacrifice her ship and crew to protect the Alari. But she was glad it did not come to that. "Stand down from combat readiness," she ordered, "but maintain position until the Vrex are out of the system." Captain Park stood in the command center and felt tears in his eyes. The Union ships began to celebrate. Messages of joy and relief poured through communication channels. "We did it," Hyejin said. "We stopped them without firing a shot." "Humanity did it," Minjun replied. "They showed us something we had forgotten. That courage is not about weapons. It is about standing for what is right, even when you are afraid." The Vrex fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished. The threat was over. 3 days later, the Union Council held a special session. They requested Admiral Choi's presence. When she arrived, the entire council stood and bowed to her. This was the highest honor the Union could give. Wisdom Keeper Thalesh spoke for everyone. "Humanity has shown us that peace requires both wisdom and strength. We ask that you help us build our own defense fleet. Teach us what you know." Jiwoo shook her head gently. "With respect, we cannot build your fleet for you. That would make you dependent on us. But we can teach you the principles we learned. Strength exists to protect others. Power should always include mercy. And the most important weapon is the willingness to sacrifice yourself for someone else's freedom." "That is what you will teach us?" Thalesh asked. "That is what we learned from our mistakes," Jiwoo said. "And it is the only lesson worth teaching." The Indomitable prepared to return to Earth. But before it left, something remarkable happened. Every Union ship that had stood with them came to escort it to the system's edge. Over 300 vessels accompanying one human battleship. They had seen a human battleship for the first time and could only stare in silence. Now they watched it leave. understanding what it truly represented. Not conquest, not domination, but the courage to stand between evil and the innocent, the willingness to be a shield for others, the wisdom that came from learning hard lessons and never forgetting them. The Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light travel and vanished into the stars, carrying with it the hope that the galaxy had learned something new about what it meant to be truly strong.